Wednesday, March 4th, 9:38 a.m. What is up, trading team? Assemble. Trading Avengers. Big breakthroughs. So we are back on American Eagle. We had Abercrombie & Fitch, which, again, my planning, my executive assistant didn't give me the correct time, or they might have changed it. Originally, I saw on here it was supposed to be at 9 a.m. before the bell, and then it was, the earnings. Originally, I thought it said 9 a.m. for the earnings report and then the conference call. But regardless, the earnings for Abercrombie & Fitch were released at 7:30 this morning, giving us some slight indication for the sector. And so kind of what we expected. I didn't even really watch this one, but again, what establishes when people say, oh, they had a good conference call or they had good earnings? Are they saying they met expectations? I don't pay any credit or care at all about any of these analysts. Like, that never means anything, literally zero to me. But if they have a good conference call, like, what does that mean? They're meeting analyst expectations? Are they just any random Joe on the internet's opinion? If, hey, that's a number I like in terms of total revenue. Things you would want to see, again, is profit. I mean, that's really the whole point of all business, is to make money. Shocker. Don't let anyone in on my secrets. But regardless, the stock price action, I did not look into the fundamental development whatsoever, but we have this immediate kind of pop to 110, and that is pre-market, again, right when the numbers drops. I don't know if there's any, it doesn't look like there's any sustained volume even for that 3 minutes, but then an immediate retracement, again, kind of this expectation where even if you have good numbers, whatever that may mean, you then have guidance that's lower, and that kind of sets the expectation to the downside, and that seems rather consistent for a lot of different earnings reports. And so regardless, we have that indication, but another thing to kind of take note is that the pop was to 110, and so this kind of channel down here for American Eagle is equivalent to, I think, right around the 26 mark. And so even if it, again, I expect the same type of thing here for American Eagle, good overall holiday numbers with lowered guidance into the rest of the year. So now, on a sentiment-wise, I'm feeling pretty good about holding short. Again, yesterday, again, not nervous, again, because of the position size. I put myself in a position where if it goes up to the 26, to the 29, or I think it peaked out at 28.60 or something, 28.50. And so if it does, get back up into that range, it's certainly not cataclysmic, right? It's you're going to go from up $700 to down $1,200, which is certainly a dollar figure that I would want to preserve. But it's just, can you meaningfully execute that preservation? And to me, the answer to that was no. It does trade up to the 28. Maybe we have to eat another dividend day, and then we kind of hopefully again go back to the same trade thesis, the cyclicality of the holiday season being in the rearview mirror. But regardless, we are now again fading over here. There's kind of a slight pop. It's 9:42 currently. But I expect this to kind of pretty much just piggyback off of the bellwether. Our bellwether, Abercrombie & Fitch, has led the cows to roost lower. And so that should be good for us. I would imagine we would go into profit today, and then I'm imagining the exact same type of thing from American Eagle's report, but Abercrombie & Fitch kind of setting the tone for the sector. Additionally, we have the war raging on, which is always exciting stuff. And so overall market, again, the initial breaking of wars is turmoil. I think from my experience and from watching things, it seems to be one of these events that settles in pretty quick, unfortunately, or not unfortunately. Again, I don't have constitutional rights. I don't really care. But it doesn't seem to really weigh on sentiment for that long. And so it seems to be just assimilated into the sentiment rather quickly. Regardless, profit-wise, our direction's looking good. Pleasant little surprise this morning. Overall, what we expected, and this should be, if we get through the earnings tomorrow, again, I don't see the little, you probably can't see it, but the dividend symbol for American Eagle. But I'm assuming they will just announce it. That symbol pops up when the when the earnings call happens and they just officially confirm it or announce it. And then, because again, they've been consistently doing this 12 cents 5 dividend for a substantial amount of time. And so unless American Eagle, which is again not a company I expect to go out of business, or it just trading the cyclicality of the holiday season. So but the dividend could be lower. I mean, we see some 10 cents over here. Regardless, that is once we get through earnings call. If we get through earnings call again, the next kind of thing is just that dividend consideration. If you're short, you have the liability, and it'll be deducted from your account. Over on SanDisk, we closed lower again, and then we're still just kind of bouncing around right in the same type of area. Back up to the 590. Like I said, I closed the other share yesterday at the 582, and so I'm kind of just, again, it's another. It always makes sense to buy if it's going to go up, sell if it's going to go down, and with this price action momentum, all my financial situation considered, the 2 share size I'm very comfortable with, and so it would make sense right here to short it if I think it's going to go down. But I'd rather see it again either go up out of this range or go down below this range before adding. Again, we did have the 2 shares for a while, which I was really comfortable with, but just not trying to rush back into the exact same type of price point. And so overall, again, we're up a good chunk on American Eagle for the year, $1,100. Those are our 2 trades that we've really traded. SanDisk, we're down $24, and so those are the ones we're monitoring, looking pretty good. Again, 9:45 is not a time that I typically get into a position or exit a position. It's either pretty much immediately at the open or not till the 10:17, and so, or again right around there. But regardless, anything else, Joby still looking nice. Good old Joby. The ATAI and DF, what is it now? The ticker symbol from MNMD. Where's this one at? DFTX. Still kind of just channeling sideways, not really doing much. And we should get our dividend deposit from SGov's payout from yesterday. Again, should be like $1,800 sometime, I think, tomorrow before the market. And so, again, that's my lovely income. Again, I do not have constitutional rights. I got an email back from my alcohol partner, so this is fun. Again, the same exact shit that I expect. It's just like this whole United States Constitution just doesn't exist. And it's at a point where the entirety of the scientific structure that you can use, that's logically present, that is derived from the physical existence, described completely with language, is very literally on the internet. So again, I continue to take that as profound and extensive disrespect at the level of a world leader being forced to walk down an enemy street without bodyguards and the grave bodily harm, so on and so forth. We've covered that extensively in the language litigation. There'll be another video of that today. I keep saying that, but it just, again, I want to do this shit. It is much more relevant to my personal life, the deprivation of my rights. But then it's just at this point where there's nothing to fucking do. There's no one to call. There's nowhere to go. And it's just such a waste of my time and my day. And why we continue to do this, and you can't pay me a little bit of money. But again, to the future generations, this is America. I have a high-def TV monitor thing. I have a microphone. I don't have a single human being that knows what to do. That's right. That does not have morality. And so they are just so tied into this groupthink sentiment, and they just sense, this first of all, when I first came onto the scene, is like, oh, this guy's not even doing real science. Again, coming from the academic community, I was in school for astrophysics, raising my hand, hey guys, can I do research? Hey guys, this doesn't make any sense. Hey guys. And so it's just a fraud and arrogance and, again, just such a vapid existence, just nothing. There's just nothing going on, and it's disgusting, and it's illegal. I mean, there's no emotional appeal. It's just directly illegal. And then I have a business partner who is a personal injury attorney, and it's like, here, dude, here's the direct constitutional citation of the law. Here's the direct property being stolen. Here's the direct people doing it. Here is all of the evidence. It's all documented. Just file a fucking lawsuit. And so his kind of response was like, we still don't have a clear regulatory path to the FDA. The FDA is committing fraud, racketeering, and conspiracy every single day. on an individual basis, each one of those people that is a part of these organizations that has gotten a licensure from one of these academic institutions is committing fraud, racketeering, conspiracy every single day. If you walk into a school or into a store and steal a bunch of shit, and just because even if you go in a mob of 1,000 people, you're still stealing. Just because there's a lot of you fucking idiots stealing my shit doesn't mean you're not stealing my shit. It is fraud. It is crime. It is illegal. And it is great exemplification and a great example of behavior for your children. And so I keep emphasizing that. Here in the great country of the United States of America, the Constitution is truly as real as fucking Santa Claus, man. But that is what we have for our trades. With this overall downward pressure, we should be looking pretty good. Now we've popped back up. Oh no, we haven't really popped back up. But that is what I have for today. We will check back in after the morning or after the afternoon trade. See you then. Thursday, March 5th, 7:38 a.m. What is up, my skibbity rizzlers? Hope everybody's staying Sigma out there. Today, checking in with our trading. So we missed yesterday. So tragic. Another trading conundrum is that my utilities on a personal level went out. The power went out. And so I did not do an afternoon update because anytime after, I was going to do something around, I want to say like 2:30 to 3, but by the time I got on my computer, the power had gone down. So that's a consideration for trading, making sure that you're actually able to execute the trades with power supply. Because if you enter a trade and the power goes down, that doesn't stop the stock moving. So that's really fun stuff, but that's just more of a headache on my end. And so, but regardless, I did not get any updates after the morning session yesterday, as you can see if you're watching this segment. But regardless, had some pretty good movements. So we'd had the earnings report from American Eagle, Abercrombie and Fitch in the morning, which gave us some direction. Abercrombie had a good report, but then we can see one of these things where it just felt, again, follow the stock for long enough. The last two earnings, they had good earnings and appreciate. This one is just the sector seems like that it had its move for the past 6 months, 6 to 9 months. Nice. And so, but regardless, it had this immediate pop, as we can see, to this 110, and then immediately sold off, and then pretty much just traded at what I would consider regular throughout the day, which is effectively what I'm expecting for American Eagle. So this was before the market yesterday, so we had the report and then a market trading session. American Eagles came out after the market, which adds a little different dynamic to it. But then this will be the first session after the report. And so I don't expect much movement in terms of outside of its normal progression. I do want to point out, though, as you can see, we added 50 shares. And so this is just kind of like a trade prospectus or thesis that pops up because I'm following this specific security and sector. So I effectively see, again, the dynamics of the share price of Abercrombie and Fitch going to be the exact same as American Eagle. For kind of, again, are people walking through the mall saying, oh, American Eagle's got the breakthrough Sydney Sweeney titty jeans? or is it just people going through the mall in general spending more money? And so point being is thinking with about, 60% confidence, slightly above average, that this would trade effectively mechanically the same as Abercrombie and Fitch. So I threw up a 50 share size at $24.50 and $25.50 in the same way, because the equivalent move from Abercrombie and Fitch, this pop up here to 110, if we look on the daily, it's effectively, right here. So this is like, this channel right here to me was the exact same as this channel right here for American Eagle. So I put my price, I wanted to add to the position. My price average was right at $23.99, so in change, so effectively 24. And so I only wanted to add, if I could add above, again, expecting one of these extremely, the exact number of the earnings hits. It pops up very briefly. I was even considered trying to trade the whole share size, which again would have been, like if we would have closed down into here, which again, this gap area was like our first technical level. When we got to there, it was just kind of janky. Hindsight 2020, but just didn't want it to try to dance around. But certainly would have been a good trade to close that initial again, as we said, expected this appreciation up, but just not trying to dance around it with the earnings. But again, we could have made another $1,000 again with the share size that we've been taking. If we would have closed into here and then executed. But we did get a 50 share size ad, which I was thoroughly, currently looks pretty good. But just because of the market dynamic of Abercrombie & Fitch, it made sense that this was going to do effectively the same thing, and it seems like it has. So we did get the ad. As you can see, we sold American Eagle at the $24.50, and that got filled. So that was exciting. That's kind of fun. Make $100 in effectively 2 minutes, 3 minutes. But we pulled our price average up a very little bit, up to 24.06, and then it effectively comes right back down to where it closed, and then it trades lower. And so I'm expecting today, certainly a test of this 21.20. I'm thinking this is going to break into the 21 to the 20 area by the end of the week. I mean, that's kind of we get through this earnings. Today we'll have the volume from the earnings. Any sort of upward fluctuations wouldn't surprise me. 100% obviously in a price amount, $850 that I would want to preserve, but we're still trading the move. It's like, if you're on a personal level, hey, $850 is great. That's, it's never bad to take profit. In no circumstances do I think it's bad to take profit. But it's just, again, $850, definitely something that you can go do something with. Probably wouldn't even take it out of my account though. And I don't think the move's over, right? We get through this earnings. We're going to have this volume today. It could flutter a little bit. Again, it wouldn't surprise me to trade back up to the 23. Attempting 24 again, this to me, this is now the new channel. And so I don't want to try to dance around with the price action or with my price average currently, because as we can see, right, we have this 26 to 28, which is a pretty well-defined channel. Unfortunately, we missed that. But then Abercrombie & Fitch comes out one day, and they're super lower. So this American Eagle opens up lower, closes up, but then this 26 to 28 was a level, this 24 to 26 was a level, and now we're in this 24 to 22, which could easily, again, with this little gap, again, we did fill it, but now we're through the stimulus, right? We've had this 6 months, we'll call it 9 months, we'll call it 6 months. The past since the beginning of the year has been pretty sideways. But we've had this appreciation on the backdrop of a larger appreciation over 3 years for the whole market. Again, not super high convicted, but expecting some sort of, again, just consolidation or more, picking out American Eagle as the whole market's up appreciated for, 3 years going on its 4th year. What stocks are sticking out the most? And so that's why, American Eagle came onto my radar. And so even, again, a stock specific, I continue to expect some, again, so for our next levels, again, 20 will be an obvious psychological whole number level, but then we're again looking to the same ranges as when we first traded this back in September. Is we have this initial Sydney Sweeney pop, and then we just kind of trade down, and we kind of trade up through the holiday season. And so this 20 to 14 is a whole nother area of just relatively recent appreciation. Certainly traded through this section up in here, but those are kind of our next kind of levels, and I expect it to get more down into here as opposed to go up. Again, not super high conviction. If I were to close this position and say I'm going to go try to trade something else, again, I don't have any higher convicted fundamental thesis things. Netflix is kind of interesting to me at this point. Not right here. Again, with this, all of these movements have reliefs, right? We have an extended downturn, and then this pops back up, right? But then this is in and of itself is a little trend. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 trading sessions up after this relief of the bottom. And so Netflix is kind of interesting. Again, this is one of those where it has fundamental demand continually. Just you have to make the business model work. But this is, again, streaming consumer content. Cinema as a personal, I like it, has a lot of value intellectually to me, in general, responding and watching, writing scripts. That's why they're so popular. So this is a fundamental demand story. Price action right now is not super, definitely not taking a position anytime super soon, but just something I'm following for sure. So again, I want the most appreciative positions, again, the fading of the momentum to me is the most predictable trade, and then the most lucrative trades are if you get on the long side of a big appreciation. I always like owning something or shorting something as opposed to options, but even options contracts on the long side, if it have extreme appreciations, you're going to see the I want to say probably one of the highest returns you can see in a trade like that. But regardless, this is just something that's now in my mind. Netflix. Popping over to SanDisk, but I will stay with American Eagle for now. And so for the conviction, where it's like if I was to close, like I would have to have a higher conviction fundamental thesis. Like if I just wanted to go trade something, I mean that's always available. You just have some sort of risk tolerance. It has to be reasonable within the price action movement. But again, I don't really have a risk tolerance because I don't have constitutional rights, and the United States of America is a joke, and the Constitution is as real as Santa Claus. But again, try not to bog down all of my content with direct citation of law, but that is on a personal level. Again, if I wanted to make money, the most immediate thing is my exercising of my rights, but this country has no values, none. And I say that just because I'm in this jurisdiction. Any academic institution has a legal and professional obligation to acknowledge what's been done. All of science is on the internet. I mean, like, for fuck's sake. Regardless, but we got the dividend, and so that was lower. But I did look historically for SGov. I think it was like 0.29 per share, so that came out to $1,570, $1,570. So I was expecting more like 1,800 to 1,900. But then I did look. The SGov had historically just the March dividend, or I guess technically the February, has always been lower. I'm assuming just probably because the day is shorter. But regardless, anything north of $1,500 is fine. Again, whether I make $1,300 or $2,100, like that is not changing my lifestyle to any capacity at all. Do I have constitutional rights? No. Do I have an alcohol partner that is a personal injury attorney that literally doesn't see the Constitution as a real thing? Yes. I mean, it's just like I am in a level of carnival bullshit that I can't break out of. The reputational damage that has been done to me is so profound that the entirety of science is sitting on the internet, publicly viewable. You can watch it, learn from it, and without the acknowledgement of quote-unquote academia, which is really just a bunch of administrators committing fraud, there's just nothing you can do. And on a personal level, again, a barred attorney, which I do not see as ethical behavior, which I do not see as moral behavior, which violates or would be considered extreme gross negligence. The reason we do not have a product is because the FDA is committing fraud in direct violation of the Constitution. My proving extends to everything. But are there any values in this country? No. Do the lawyers in this country respect the law? No. Again, this is somebody outside of my hometown community that has no interaction with me besides direct business communications, direct citation of the law, direct public contract, direct detriment to our joint property because the law is violated. If somebody breaks into your house, you don't file a petition at the state house. You call the police and have that guy arrested. When the FDA violates the Constitution, you don't submit a formula approval. You sue them. And I've already tried to. I don't have my reputation and credentials validated. He is an active law firm. Robert Hemphill out of Florida. Total piece of shit. But we'll do a whole video on that because, again, that's gross negligence. That's failure to uphold the competence and ethical behavior that is required by any bar association. So that's a formal legal complaint, 100%. But regardless, point being is February is shorter month. I'm assuming that's what happened here. Again, there's nothing to happen. It's just, how the treasury bonds mature, because this is just a fund of short-term treasuries, 0 to 3 months. And so, but point being, on a personal level, $1,300 a month, $2,100 a month changes my day-to-day life zero. But currently the conversation seems that rates should be stabilized kind of. And again, I'm more of not because I have this position, but a stronger interest rate environment to indicate a healthy economy seems to make sense to me. Again, I've talked about that a bunch, but just again, the stimulation, okay, if I have to pay a little bit less money on interest, to me that just never stimulates demand. And so I was thinking about it yesterday. I kind of wanted to make the case that, again, a lower interest rate does stimulate business economics to some extent, and it might, and it probably does. I just don't, whenever I hear that correlation, specifically to the strong enough to be a causation, I wince. Every single time I'm just like, why are we saying this? But again, maybe some company, if they were going to open up a plant and the interest, again, because the interest rate does, like, you see that on a house, like a personal house basis. If the interest rate is at 6% as opposed to 2%, the amount of interest you pay over a long term for a loan is tremendous. But then on a personal level, I just never take out loans like that. And it's like, nor would I ever. Like, it's just not, that is not how I see as healthy progression, whether you're building a business, reinvesting your product to expand, or a personal level, doing personal finance to grow your quality of life. I just don't see, you should be able to accumulate wealth and generate value fast enough where you taking on debt is a very small thing in your head. Sometimes it might make sense in a more business expansionary framework, but I just don't see why if you have genuine growth, you couldn't just self-fund that in all context. Could be wrong. There could be some instances popping up for sure. Where I would take that back or modify that. But again, I just always wince at that correlation. And so that is where we're at with our trades and management. So there's our huge income for the month. But that's what I'm saying is like American Eagle. But again, it's like, even if, you cash out $800 right now, you effectively add 33%. Look at that. But again, if it doesn't change my lifestyle, the actual dollars, again, we're staying with the trade. So if I close this position, right, then I'm still going to want to open something else somewhere else. And I just don't have any other convictions. The SanDisk, which we'll pop over here to in a second. But point being is, we might have to eat a dividend. So the dividend date is April, the ex-dividend date. Like I would have to cover these shares before April 10th to not have the dividend liability. But now we have a month. So it's like, I'm not going to, getting to today's management, I'm not going to put stop losses probably. Certainly a dollar figure I would want to preserve, but we have now made what I consider a definitive drop in this channel from this 22 to 24 down from the 26 to 24. This slightly confirms it. Again, pretty happy with the ad that I got there. But regardless, once we get through this earnings day, again, if it were to fluctuate back up to 23, 24, I don't really expect it, frankly. But if it were to do that, again, just getting back to break even, we would still, again, if it, for some reason, wanted to return to the upside and go into an uptrend, which again, at this point, again, what would be the stimulus? So we've getting through these earnings. We had the Sydney Sweeney thing, which to me, this is all just like a continuation of that. And now it's like, okay, we're through the earnings. We'll get through the trading volume today. What is the stimulus? What would be a reason to buy this? What would be a reason to go long? Is the consumer trend of buying jeans or, again, retail with no real innovation, no real differentiator, just a brand name, which is great. Not knocking the company. Doesn't matter if I am. But, what would be a reason to buy this? I just can't think of any. And so then you just kind of, again, what is your expectation based on previous price action within a relevant time frame? Again, not going back looking 10 years ago, but within the past 3 years, again, this is higher than it's been in 3 years. And so I kind of just hopefully, again, to expect to catch this downtrend. And so with the dividend, again, that is a genuine consideration, like a substantial consideration, not to take a more substantial position. But again, if I want to take a big position, I'm not looking at the things that are rocketing, that are going crazy. It's like I want to get into a position where we just kind of ploop, 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 little decreasing volume, no real stimulus. We're not on CNBC, and we just kind of drift down and, make 20, 30% over 2 months. But like no psychological distress. We just kind of, boop, catch a nice little fade. You want to catch that fade? Yeah, bro, I'm literally trying to catch fades over here. But that's, to me, that's the ideal big position to build, is we've broken out of this range, ideally to the long side, frankly, or more substantial to the downside. But this is, again, where it's one where you're fairly confident there's not going to be further stimulus. I mean, there's just what could happen. It's not going to be innovation, a brand partnership, but we've run that. So that's the whole thing, is how that just happened. And so if we had, Sydney Sweeney grows 3 boobs now, right? It's like, I just don't see that we regenerating this momentum that we had. And any sort of backdrop of, again, with this war, with indefinite, we have some negative stimulus, kind of. Again, I say kind of, because once you get through the initial, oh, another war, it's just like, I don't see that big of market impact. And so that's what we're looking like at the morning. Again, we have a good amount of pre-market time still. And so, but this is not floating up at all. And so I think today my tight price range is, again, I expect it to go to this, certainly kind of to retry this 2120, but 2150 or below is kind of where I'm thinking this is going to go. Again, similar to Abercrombie and Fitch. Big pop, slight retrace, and we kind of just trade sideways in the range that we're at. And so that's kind of what I'm expecting here. And then once the volume dies down, I expect further retracement. And so we do have a month, though. Like I said, we have a little bit more than a month, right? Today's March 5th. We have to close or cover before April 10th. And so for today's management, almost certainly no stop loss. Again, I'd probably put something, again, just $100 in the profit. Again, definitely not trying to be too tight, because I do think we're in a channel that we've moved out, that we've been in with our price average above. And so this is one where, again, we get through this 22 to 20, we'll call it, range. If it does to trade to there and then we break below that, that's when, again, intraday, you can take 1,000, 2,000 shares additional and try to maximize a day trade. If it goes in your favor, again, continue to hold. If it doesn't, have a tight stop loss where you still make a couple $100 and then you kind of swung for the fences a little bigger. And so that is kind of the mindset here, because, again, plus $800, certainly definitely want to preserve that. It's not going to change my lifestyle in any meaningful sense, but I might buy, again, like on a personal level, like if I cash out $800 profit in relatively short-term gains, again, obviously no tax liability because I do not have constitutional rights. I can't not point that out every single time. And it's the biggest psychological thing in my brain, is not being able to access social structures, which is damages, fraud, racketeering, conspiracy, every major crime that could exist. But again, I would go buy something, maybe like a piece of equipment for my office. But again, I have most of the equipment I want. Cell phone's getting kind of old, but it's working fine. So that's the thing I won't replace until it's functionally not doing what it wants. Because as a consumer, a cell phone, what is the new functionality? I would, now that I'm doing a ton of video content, I would want something with 4K video, but 1080p is plenty good resolution. It's not like anyone's not watching a video in 1080p if it's a bit of content they actually want to see. And so, and then past that, what's the new functionality in phones? It's like, I haven't seen anything in years. And so, then maybe a camera. Again, I don't have, I have plenty of good cameras. And so again, it's just like, I don't know. But I'm trying to get into a position where because I'm just sitting, I don't do anything besides work, like literally nothing. And so, but I enjoy it. This is when you have a math subject in your head and you can analyze logic and it's just endless. There's always a reward to it. So the only thing I want to do on a personal level is discuss my research and build business and do real things that I'm doing right now, just with the validations of my credentials and property. And so then maybe just leave it in the account and take a riskier trade. But again, that's what I'm saying, is there's no dollar figure that I'm looking for here. What I'm doing here is making these videos. And so, but that is where we're at. And again, plenty of time to float around before the pre-market or before the market opens in an hour and a half. But I'm going to cut this video here and we will check in either again pre-market or after the morning or sometime in between. You'll hear it when we do the introduction. See you then. Thursday, March 5th, 9:40 a.m. What's up, traders? So I wanted to go over, I covered, as you can see, the whole share size. American Eagle opened up strong to the downside. Let's look at my fills. And so we're still into the morning trade pretty good, but we've now sliced through two price levels where it's like 20, a whole number. American Eagle is not a company I expect to go out tomorrow or even kind of. The overall guidance was pretty good. Whatever that means, but it was a technical level 20. I kind of expect to bounce off of there, but it was certainly a profit level where it was advantageous to cover, in my opinion. So we'll see if the cover goes well throughout the day. Certainly could trade lower, but I expect it to kind of bounce off 20 because this is a company where it's not like Qure or the QURE that we covered kind of recently, where it's like a make or break on the FDA. American Eagle still has substantial revenue. They're paying a dividend, which was another thing in our mind, but it was really the opening up. It had a strong move to the downside, as we can see. So currently sitting right at 1919. My fills were, as you can see, all of these guys right here. And so we had some mostly 12. That was pretty much right at the open. I had these two for 100 fill, because just again below 2050. The 20 to 2050 is the cover range, where it's like the same kind of zone. So I wanted to get 100 covered there. Then I did get some covered below the 19 or below 20, which we are currently at 1988, 91. But then throughout these low 20s. And so overall, we'll see if that's a good cover or not throughout the day, because we could still sell off. But again, this is one of those things where it's for the intraday movement. To me, this is what this downside will reverse. I would expect probably, again, right around that 10:17, the Gucci main hour. And so overall, we'll see. Again, if it goes down substantially more, I'll feel kind of bummed. But it's one of those things where whenever you're covering, you're always going to be going against momentum. And if you're buying, you're always going against momentum if you're in the profit or if you're closing a position. And so meaning, you sit here and look here and it's like, I could have made, what was it, probably like $150 more if I just waited, another 42 seconds, or, it's 9:42, another three minutes. But then again, it could bounce, it could not. And so this is a range where the 20 whole number was a good psychological level to me. We'll see if it ends up being a good technical level. But wherever this trades down to, I do expect it to reverse and bounce at right around the 10:17 towards the 10 hour. Because again, we have volume, any intraday trend, nothing is going to go up or down intraday the whole time. And so we have added stimulus with this volume of earnings. And so I see this as, like, again, pushing with a lot of force. So however low this goes is going to kind of have a relief after it. And so we'll see if that pans out, if our cover's good. For now, I'm pretty happy with it. Again, such a strong move. Our levels being like I said, the 24 to 22, and then we broke down again clearly to this 20, which is $2 chunk, because now we're back at this peak where this is, again, I don't resist it. This is just another price level where the stock has naturally traded, where it's like this could bounce pretty naturally off of here, and it wouldn't surprise me at all. And so we continue to break down. Good to cover again. Personally, like I said, I don't really feel, once I'm out of a position, it's just pretty much done for me. So I'm not over here thinking like, I wish I could have made more. I mean, obviously I want to make more money, but a level that was pretty good to cover. And so whatever move this makes, like I said, I expect it to do so through about 10:17. And so a couple other things that I wanted to follow while this is doing its move. SanDisk, I'll pop on over here where we're at. And so we can see some, I don't put a lot of credence or anything to it, but when you see like these white numbers, you can just kind of like visually see the order flow kind of slowing down. Again, you could get orders and it comes right back in and they're all green and red and jumping around. And it's one of those things where it's just something that you might see or might pop in your head, like what's going on. But so we did short another share yesterday. I think I covered it. Not sure. Again, the power went out, so our trading log got interrupted. Excuse me. But regardless, so price average 610. Pretty much, again, not much to say over here, but I do think this is a good technical level that we pop down below this 600 psychological level. Wouldn't surprise me again to go to the 800 or 1000, but each day we get away from stimulus on extreme momentums, the more likely to me it is to the downside. So again, I would say like 55% conviction on this, meaning that I'm in the right direction. And so, but again, now that we've covered American Eagle, that psychologically, now I have one open position. And so again, still the focus, I think, will still be American Eagle to trade, but it's a freeing up of this, both the finances or I guess covering the liability, as well as the psychology of not managing too many trades at one time. And so, again, could be bummed if we, keep going down, because again, now it's being only like $300. But maybe pulled the trigger a little too soon. But we'll see. Again, we'll see, because if it bounces back up, it has a hard retrace, or Again, retrace to me just means any direction where it came from. And so, again, you can sit here, and again, it's just, to me, good to acknowledge the sentiment, because it's always, again, you're always going against momentum. If you're entering a position and, right, something's going up really high and you want to short it, you're going to feel that momentum the minute you get into it and you're just not in the right direction. You're like, what did I do? And here it's like, okay, again, another 3 minutes literally would have been $200. But did I know it was going to go down? Nope. Was it reasonable to bounce? Yep. Is it reasonable to go down from here? Yep. And so you're just in this mindset of overall management and trying to execute the best you can. So I think that's it for the technical trading stuff, or at least the two main focus. I did want to say Gemmy, our ads, we added in the 5s over here. So this one's popping again. And so we did, I wanted to comment over here on so Bitcoin, I'm assuming I have a pretty strong correlation. I don't know if causation, but again, it seems to be the Bitcoin pricing, is currently right around 74,000. And so I'm assuming this is why that is popped up. And again, that's why I averaged down. It was like, originally bought it, IPO, Winklevoss, crypto thing. It's like, okay, sure, let's throw some money. Managed it really, really sloppily. But this has popped up substantially. So I sold some yesterday into the 840 range. Because we had, I think, 25 shares. It's either like 20 shares. Again, we can look at the thing. I'm not going to. But I pretty much doubled the position to bring down the price average from like $28 to like $16, and then I sold 20 shares. I had 63, sold 20 into this 840 range. And so from a management perspective, again, this price average, right, when it says now, our price and loss since open, and like those are the remaining shares. So again, always looking at your realized gain on Schwab. I don't have it open right now, so I'm not going to try to pull it up. But you always look at that, because you're going to lose the overall accounting. Like, this is not like I'm still in the negative more substantially than $35. And so, but I had just bought those shares, the shares that I just bought, 3 days ago, had appreciated 40%. And so kind of good timing there. There's no real thought besides this thing is really, really low. And so any stimulus would be positive, and turns out it was. And so we've continued up here, again, pretty substantially. And so probably might trim again, might sell, because again, it was at least 30 shares. I wanted to say I had 30 and then I added 33. But any of the shares that I just recently added, I would want to be cycling through. And so that's the verbiage I think of it as. That's the feeling it is to me. It does bring your price average down, but you're not actually, the amount of money I've traded on Gemmy is down. And so it went from, again, when we first looked at it back here in this 5, it was like, minus like $700. With this appreciation, it went to like minus 4-ish, whatever the 40% increase was. And then now it's getting close to about, 50 or, 100% or not. Again, of these shares that I'm still holding, but when I sold those shares, the price average locked in losses of the ones. The reason my price average is lower is because it cycled through the shares that were bought at a higher price. And so I had lost, probably $100, 150 on those. Let's say 150 on those shares. And so probably more. So point being is I'd have to look to be specific, but I want to say I'm still down. I want to say probably like $300. And so that's just something to keep in mind for your management. But this is something, again, so I've recuperated, 50% of that loss, right? Sitting down 700, now sitting down 350, whatever it's at, is a good movement, again, because if I didn't do any change at all in my position, didn't add to it, right, my price average would have been at $28. I think it's even a little higher. I think it was originally like 30 something. And so we would have to get to $15 to recuperate 50% of the loss. And so that was a pretty good little movement. Nothing to write home about, but definitely, hey, that happened. We're still appreciating over here. And so I'll probably trim again at this 10 level if we get, and the average price to me, it does matter, but it's not with this reshuffling of the average price, just the overall what am I down is kind of like the number that I'm thinking about when I'm looking at this security. And so again, let's pop back over, see where American Eagle's at. So still pretty low. We will see if we bottom there or not. And then The SanDisk, again, we just commented on that. Any more change there? Kind of gone back up. This one's, again, is just, there's nothing for really me to comment on. And so, Joby, I don't think we stopped out there. Or did we? I think it did stop me out. Where did it stop me out at? Probably the 1980. And so, let's see where I'm at on Joby. That's sad. But that's just kind of like a fun stock. Yeah, so I stopped out up $13 on the year. So anytime I get in profit there, I just put a real tight stop loss and I want my private helicopter so I can take Liz Taylor Young on a private, like she might be married, but I'm her boyfriend. We all know that. And so on to the talking points. There's actually some stuff. First thing was on the CNBC Trader TV away from the computer screen. It said elephants are the only mammals that can't jump. What about whales? Never seen a whale jump? Does it jump out of the water? I don't know. What does it jump? I don't think whales jump. They said elephants can't jump, but I don't think whales can jump either. Anyway, not one of the most important talking points so far. But we did have, again, Liz Taylor did make an appearance on the talking points. In relation to the South Korea, they had their worst day ever of like a minus 12% off of like 140% in 2025. And that was brought to us by my girlfriend, Liz. And so, hey Liz, remember, a lot of magic back there. But, again, that's kind of like the discrepancy you're looking for. It's like this overall global market, human behavior overall, again, the policy regulation is what's different from country to country. I would say that's obviously, most people would agree with that's the obvious part, and then human behavior is pretty much the same. And so again, you have this extended uptrend on a given market. Emerging markets, I would say you could have a more extended uptrend than a more mature section of the market. But point being is, again, how long those trends go. Does it go for 7 years, 10 years, 1 year? I mean, I don't know. But there's still going to be the cycling of human sentiment present in the security price action. And so that's a good example of, again, just a discrepancy. A market 140%, big turmoil, clear turmoil with the Iran war. Stuff's going to go down. And so that was the way she presented that was, again, something for me to write down. And then the big one today was, again, we have our author, our star of this series, or at least as we're reading his book, Mr. Andrew. And so we have this guest on there. Again, Joe Kernan cannot stop cucking to Donald Trump. And if you take the most generic Republican sentiment, Joe Kernan just screeching bald eagles, standing there honoring the great flag, and then he's sitting on a show where he can open his mouth and tell the truth, and he won't do so, right? Liberty and justice for all. If one person doesn't have constitutional rights, you could be that person too. Except you're too stupid, Joe, or again, anybody. You're not going to solve all of science. But they're talking about, again, they're not talking about classified information. They're talking about this public conversation about technology and censorship and data collection and surveillance that is like kindergarten. And so Andrew's up there. Anthropic's this company. I think they released this Claude, which is like a AI, again, under this umbrella. And again, I'm not like oblivious to what these terms are not used in a well-defined way. So that's why I don't present it as like this. What is Claude? Again, I'm being very specific with all of my language. Oh no, Joby is spiking. But regardless, Andrew's talking about, again, clearly as this sentiment of, if I had to guess, Andrew's political, slight liberal, I guess, maybe. Again, it doesn't matter. I'm just trying to point out, again, Joe Kernan presents this where like Republican and Democrat mean something. But in the reality, we're supposed to have the United States Constitution. That is what the government is. If you said, what is the U.S. government? It is the Constitution. And then the administration of the government is all of the bureaucracy you see. So that's the point being is we live in this country where the Republicans love the Constitution, and Joe Kernan's over here just, look at those blue-haired kids. Oh, they don't know. It's just, again, just the most generic sentiment you see from the entire Republican Party. But it's not informed. Again, most people will hear that and be like, oh, he's a Democrat. Yeah, no. No, that's not what I'm saying. There's no substance. There's no meaningful. It's, again, the kids in the high school sophomores having a bake sale thinking they're running the school, and they're not. And so because it's specific to, it's not even an analogy. We're talking about defense contracting and technology. And so the first thing that was just absolutely hilarious to me, well, Andrew, again, to me, I didn't catch anything specific, but it seems that he's like, clearly this Anthropic thing could be used for killing random brown people, right? We have autonomous weapons, and so we just identify a threat, and we know what those threats look like. The more brown, the more threat. That's kind of the sentiment that's being presented is, Joe Kernan and our great patriots are war machine is such a great, powerful entity. The Constitution's not respected. The military's not serving anything. And then the pushback is this could be used, basically what I would say from an economic business standpoint as false advertising, right? If I sell you a product and it's going to do this and it doesn't do that, then it's either within a range of reasonable functionality expectation or it's fraud. And so, but the point being, that's purely business. This is a lot more political, humanitarian consideration, which is what Andrew is saying is like, we have these devices. You have to be able to know exactly who's responsible for causing what action when you're doing death, right? We can drop a bomb on the brown guy over there, or the white guy over there, or the one with the slanty eyes over in Asia. And so that's kind of the pushback. The reality is, to me, this is just obvious. You should, the whole concept of people being, I'm a war general, and your war generalness is like clicking buttons on a computer to drop a drone strike. That's fucking comically stupid to me in terms of like being a badass. The idea of wanting to be a badass is comically stupid to me as well, right? You can't be an alpha male, but you can definitely be a beta male, and that's by trying to be an alpha male. And so point being is the entire concept of war is fucking hilariously stupid to me. It's a reality, but it's just like one of those things where it's just like, stop fucking shooting each other over nothing. And so I'm not going to comment a ton on the geopolitics. We do that more in the language litigation, which we did one of those yesterday. Covered as much about the Iran wars. Again, I have any insight or thought about. But yes, any product should be advertised and have the functionality that it's said to have. And so if this Anthropic's Claude, sees an Asian, a brown Asian guy, and it's not the Asian guy, and it bombs the wrong one. It's just false advertising in its most general economic sense. Atrocious, shitty behavior, illegal war crimes, obviously. But we don't live in a position where there's fucking laws. And that is what I wanted to point out. David Favor comes on in the next segment, and it says, this could be used to break the law. You guys are breaking the law. David, Carl, Andrew, Joe, you guys sitting there, so you personally know what it is like to get information, to see how important it is. Andrew, I literally have a clip right here of you going, we're all learning about language. And so you personally know what it's like to commit crime. You do it every day. And then you guys are over there talking, and this is the hypocrisy where I'm like, what is anybody talking about? You guys could open your mouth. You are live every day, and there's a 0% chance you guys will do the right thing, do what is moral, do what is right. And you genuinely present this sentiment like, oh my gosh, that person's going to commit a crime over there with this technology. That's what you guys are doing right now. And so that was effing hilarious. But then, I guess, again, there was another guest on there, just another generic white dude, probably a younger boomer, maybe a upper Gen Xer, but again, just the most generic Republican sentiment, which is just pure hypocrisy. There is no constitution. It's not enforced. There are no laws. Business is not conducted fairly. Regulation is not enforced even remotely consistently. Not even remotely. But then they get to the point where they're talking about Claude, this Anthropic, could enable mass surveillance. And I honestly just started laughing at this point. I can guarantee you from the human level and from a much higher level that the purpose of life is thought, right? When the reason we can choose to do things is to increase efficiency. So like the product of all of life is thinking. And so when you're over there like, oh, they could be using this for mass surveillance, I'm like, wow, you guys think Snowden really tipped the lid on that thing, right? No. Everything, like every conversation, there is enough data storage. Again, this is stuff I know personally, that is everything is recorded. But then it's just like charts like this. Okay, little Susie's cheating on her husband. Who gives a fuck? Little Billy's selling a little bit of drugs over there. Who gives a fuck? And so mass surveillance, hate to break it to you, but there is no such thing as privacy. That's at a human level now. And the humans that are doing that at that level now don't even realize what else is out there. And so it's just like comically stupid to see, again, people genuinely who are censoring information themselves fraudulently, illegally, be like, oh yeah, this might be used for nefarious illegal purposes. Definitely not us doing the same exact thing right now to a different level, right? And so they are demonstrating the behavior themselves. And so, yeah, hate to break it to you, but the mass surveillance is not nefarious, and that ship sailed a long time ago, and it is a genuine consequence of life. Like the purpose, the non-emotional brass tacks purpose of life is to increase efficiency. That is done by memory and thinking. Pop on over to math class. We're deriving the whole thing. But so those were the talking points there, and it was just, again, genuine. Again, just the jerking off the guest, again, because there's sentiment against the Department of War, our great military serving our great freedoms, and it's like, you guys are the privileged class just saying, look at us. I feel like at this point we should have Letterman jackets for our countries, just a big American Letterman jacket, just like in high school. You can put like Varsity War Department on the back with Pete Hegseth. I mean, it's comically stupid. Again, the Constitution is violated egregiously, extensively, profoundly, in a way that affects absolutely everybody. It has destroyed my life. It is completely illegal. No one gives a shit. And so that is what I have for you today. Let's check back over where we at in American Eagle. So 10:02 a.m. We'll see. Maybe have a little bounce here at 1948. But for now, we will let the sentiment kind of cool down. Right? We had a good profit today. That takes our overall profit, because like I said, we traded it for a net profit of $250 on the initial little leg. It says $2,000 year to date, but I want to say it's a little less than that. But we certainly made, this was definitely today, again, with that 50 share ad, which was great. That added another $150 in about 2 hours. I mean, like literally, this I added at $24.50. And so that added $100 in like literally 3 minutes. And then another, $100 on the downtrend there. So that was a very good ad. Happy with the trade here. It could flush out more, but this is, again, the morning volume after a big move like this. Again, we just cut through the 24 to 22, and then we just did it gap? Again, yeah, I would say that's a gap. So I would say this will certainly fill at some point, or I would expect it to. But on the downside, the gap filling to me is a little, you can just keep gapping down. But American Eagle's not going to keep gapping down. It's just, again, this is a very good cover place. So I'm happy with that. Like, again, if you were to draw whatever channel lines you have, you'd be slicing through like right around 20. And so that's, again, all of those levels are just kind of instinctual. You can visually see them if you just sit here and look at these things long enough. And so I'm happy with that trade. We executed that well. Still, this is a ticker where, again, we're going to follow. We have this database of, we've watched this price action for the past 6 months. And so it's like, do we need to rush and go find something new in the market? Maybe. Again, these overall short trades, the further out from momentum, let's go find something that's $300 a share or $250 a share, but not really making news, not really making things, and maybe we just fade down, $50 a share. And so it would be a bigger, overall dollar figure put out and exposed, but, to make $2,000 on 7,000 exposed, that's, I don't know, 15, 700. That's over 20%, like 25%-ish in a couple months. That's pretty good. And so overall, I'm happy with that trade. And we didn't hit the entries were not great. That was really just a profit from 24. And so we had a decent profit from 26 to 24. Then that was the 250. And then we just kind of bounced around for several weeks. And then a good move today. And so even if it does go down further, again, as you mature as a trader, it's just like you're always going to acknowledge the sentiment because you're exposed, and it's just one of those things. Your money's in the market. You feel that sentiment, momentum relationship immediately. But good dollar figures, good executed trade, price levels wise, and now we'll just kind of see how it matures from here. I do expect either some consolidation or a little bounce, again, even up to this 21, 22. We didn't really trade through there. Like this 21.50 to 22, we peeped down here this other day, but I'm thinking it's going to bounce from here, but we shall see. Regardless, this will probably be big or long enough for a single episode. So if not, we'll see you on the next one, or if not, this will just be an awkward clip in the middle of something else. Thank you for watching. See you later.